Hello, everybody. Tonight we are going to look at Puerto Rico. It's going to be a pretty detailed discussion. Hopefully, we're going to look at a lot of different details, including downtown San Juan, some flights, and just basic details about what's going on in Puerto Rico. One of the main reasons is because it is kind of part of the United States, fairly easy to travel to, and low cost in terms of budget. So there's just a lot of factors involved in wanting to take a look at Puerto Rico. All right, so we're starting to get some beautiful images of downtown San Juan. We're going to load up some of these and kind of look at some of the areas that are particularly important here in Puerto Rico. Okay, so what are some of the new things we can essentially discover about Puerto Rico and the Caribbean as a whole? So we're going to be kind of going in, kind of diagramming some of this out to kind of see what's going on, how Puerto Rico fits in with the rest of these places in the Caribbean. Okay, so here's a detailed view of what's going on in Puerto Rico with the NASA World View imagery. It's a little bit pixelated, and there's this one line right here that I do not like at all. But that might be the best that we can get for right now. All right, so this is a pretty safe image to start with, just because it's got the population of essentially all of Central America, and then the north part of South America, and then a little tip here of Miami, kind of showing the important areas down here. So, and the border situation is becoming quite complicated. Unfortunately, it is nice to have free borders where you can travel freely, but at least in the United States, that may not be exactly the simplest way around. So we're going to kind of primarily look at Central America here, and then also the Caribbean. Okay, so let's go ahead and diagram some of this out. You can see here that Puerto Rico is kind of a smaller island relative to Haiti and Dominican Republic, as well as Cuba, but actually Jamaica is a very similar size, and kind of like parallel universe to it relative to Haiti and Dominican Republic. But I'm going to circle this in red, and we're going to kind of look at where these population pieces of the puzzle kind of come together. So I would say that really Haiti and Dominican Republic is probably the main kind of complex area in the entire Caribbean with population, as well as what's just going on right now, particularly in Haiti. So, and then Cuba kind of being kind of a silent piece of the puzzle here, with basically Havana being the major other area. So we'd have to circle this Havana here, and then definitely Miami. But I'm going to do Miami in a green color just because it's going to be completely kind of out of the discussion for the most part. And one of the questions is, how do people actually get over to Puerto Rico, and what is the kind of typical pathway? I would say definitely you'd have to look at Trinidad and Tobago down here, as well as Venezuela. So basically Caracas being super important to understand. So I'm going to do that, I think, in a blue color, just because it's kind of the opposite spectrum of what's going on in Miami. So you can kind of see there's kind of two main pathways into Puerto Rico historically, and you can kind of see that probably even starts out in Colombia here. There's a couple major cities in here. So if we were to highlight that whole pathway kind of in yellow, I'll just do that in yellow here, or actually red is probably going to be easier to see, so keep it with red. But this all kind of, you kind of have this pathway here, right, kind of coming through here, and then all the way through from Mexico and Jamaica. But really you'd have to argue that all this population that we're seeing here, guess we should do this even in another color. Let's do this in pink. But this pink population here actually is coming out of these areas here, so it's not really from Mexico. You can see the population is actually quite sparse, but they're actually kind of going through Jamaica and then into Haiti and Dominican Republic. So really it makes Haiti and Dominican Republic kind of the central piece for all the Caribbean. And I'm not even going to circle it because it's so important. I'm just going to leave it so other people can kind of make their own circles on the diagrams here. So hopefully you can hear me pretty good. So in terms of like immigration and moving around, it's just really easy actually to fly to Miami, but the actual immigration process is probably through Dominican Republic and then Bahamas. So if people really wanted to go in the United States, it might be easier to gain Bahamian citizenship, or even kind of work through even Central America. But it kind of shows some of the complexities here of traveling just because it's by ocean. So for this next part of the discussion, I pretty much took out Jamaica and Cuba, and now we're kind of focusing primarily on Dominican Republic and Haiti to see how that population basically is related over to Puerto Rico. So you can see most of that, actually there's quite a lot of population kind of springing out of the south side, right? And then you got the north side being the huge piece. So there's actually maybe even a little bit right in here kind of coming out. But the weird thing is Haiti is, the capital is over here, but actually the population is spread kind of even more north. So they're actually kind of, it's kind of not really, it is centralized here, but actually on the north side. And then you can see that actually comes through over to here, right? And then you get this kind of area. So actually Dominican Republic is actually what brings us over here, and it's actually probably likely that this is the possible connection here through there. So you actually, and then there's maybe another port right in here kind of coming in. So that kind of shows pretty clearly what's going on between these two countries, three countries actually rather. We'll just do a quick snapshot of Puerto Rico zoomed in, but you can see definitely around the edges here, and it definitely shows kind of a new area right in here. This didn't really show up on the map, as well as how thick all this is along the coast here, and then kind of a new little area here, and then this kind of being more inland. But there is a lot of earthquakes here, and then there's definitely this whole pattern right in here, and then you kind of have these two trees coming out of, just circle these out. So, and that kind of summarizes a lot of what kind of the different regions of Puerto Rico, and this is about 5 miles, so this is 5, 10, 15, 20, this is 25 miles or so, 20, 25 miles, maybe 30 miles on this end here. So kind of gives you some detailed description. Now we're going to need some of this detail here, and then here, and then here. We're going to kind of primarily focus on San Juan just because that's where their major international airport is, and kind of look at that as the base of understanding for Puerto Rico. Now I want to show this map just to show how many earthquakes are around this area. So this is perhaps one of the most serious earthquake zones in the world. So it definitely is something to think about, particularly on the south side of the island and even spread out all through here. You'd actually have to say that San Juan is probably right in the center, epicenter, because this is all spread out into here, but there's kind of a little pocket right now, right on the south side of the island. And here you can see kind of as we zoom in, some of those population areas, and we'll try to highlight that. It looks a little bit different. It looks actually more like this, right? You have this whole area here. We did see that population there. And then we see kind of a sprawl all on the coast to about there. And then you can kind of see some of these hints. It actually shows quite a bit right in here. And then this whole population kind of comes along here like that. And so it looks a little bit different actually on this map than it does. And you can't actually even see the population here. And I'm just going to put this. We're not going to even highlight that. But you can see there's actually quite a bit of inland mixture coming in here. I'm not even sure how to highlight that. So you kind of have this piece. I don't want to highlight it, but there's basically a piece here and a piece here, and then also some other kind of new cities kind of deep inland in Puerto Rico. So as we zoom into San Juan, we start to see how important that kind of middle, this area right here is relative. It even looks even more important as you look in on the satellite map. So we kind of want to circle San Juan to start with, and you got this gorgeous beach line all over there, which is kind of interesting. And there's kind of a, so there's almost a separation here. You got a river one side and two different things, and then likewise we got this whole population piece down in here. And basically what we want to do is kind of see how these detailed areas all kind of converge. But the main part of the area is basically this kind of peninsula right in here. It's considered the downtown area, and then you also have the airport right here, and I'll just highlight that in yellow. And basically, so you would fly in here and then probably head into downtown. But there is kind of a river here, and on one side we have kind of another metropolitan area, which we definitely want to look at. Let's put that in blue. And actually this would be this whole piece right in here. And then we have these kind of two greener pieces as you head out, right? You got this piece here, and then you have this piece here. And then I would even highlight this as yellow because this is almost like a new beach area, similar to the airport area. It would have been kind of similar except for the airport's there. So you must have this whole highlighted area there. So that's one way to look at San Juan, and we didn't even circle this area out here, which we could probably also do a nice light green color as you head out to this area here. Let me see that map. So it really shows an interesting area where how this kind of gets into inland, and then there's some fine details along here and here that you'd have to look at. But let's zoom into San Juan and look at just the downtown area. You can kind of see the size of the buildings are quite larger here, and the airport is actually quite close. I'm going to pause this for a moment. So again, tonight we're basically looking at Puerto Rico. We kind of gone through some details about the Caribbean, kind of mapped out some of these details that you might not have realized, basically how important Venezuela is in this whole conversation, as well as Trinidad and Tobago. Actually, it's an English-speaking country right there, which is kind of surprising. And then you got Jamaica on the other side here, where they speak a lot of English as well. But interesting nonetheless to take a look at. So wow, you really start to see how important this particular region is right in here to what's going on in Puerto Rico, right? It's so centralized and so close to downtown, and kind of puts the pieces of the industrial puzzle together, right? So you have these larger buildings, perhaps I think this is the port of Puerto Rico, the seaport, as well as some other stuff going on in here. But really, wow, this green area is super important to the industrial side. And then you can kind of see the rest of that suburban area kind of being pretty consistent all the way through here, right? So you have this whole area, and then these roads, certain roads being very important. And you can definitely say that this road right here is definitely causing a lot of that new development, as well as this guy right in here. And then look at this, how this all kind of spreads out. Very looks like really fun, actually nice living back in some of these areas. I want to kind of put this right in here like that. That looks pretty interesting. And then this is a different kind of complexity, right? You have kind of this middle zone right in here where the population and the city looks very different. And also this area right in back in here. I want to do it in a different color. I'm not sure what color we can use. Let's try an orange. So you got kind of this orange region here. So, and wow, you almost have to look at some of this other area. This is kind of a beachfront area. So let's put it yellow and kind of look at this whole area. So this would be a very interesting piece of the puzzle. And look at how complicated it would be to get over to here, right? Yeah, you basically have to cross this bridge down here, making this red guy really important, and getting into downtown, kind of going through this way. So we basically have another red path into downtown right there. And then you have this road right in here that looks pretty important as well. It's a good idea to see the mileage here. So 1 mile is about like 1 inch on your screen. So we're talking, 20 miles from here all the way downtown. So maybe 15 or 10, depending on how close you want to get to downtown. But that's could be a little bit. Once you get to up to 30 miles, you're pretty far from downtown. So you can see from this map that the highway infrastructure is fairly good, kind of connecting Ponce with San Juan, and then the other major cities. So it's really along here you kind of say that this is where a lot of that new development is kind of spreading west, out over even down to the tip here. So here again is the main population one, and I wanted to highlight that the U.S. Virgin Islands are pretty close to here, and you have quite a lot of population out there as well. A lot of people checking out there as well. So let's diagram this one out, because we're going to actually use a lot of this on YouTube, and when we zoom in. So this shows kind of a different picture, right? It shows almost, and you can see there's definitely some interesting areas connected here, and this might even go all the way out to there, right? So you can kind of see this whole area is, so it looks a little bit different, and you can just kind of see this other city in the backdrop. So we're gonna probably want to street view each one of these areas and just kind of take a look at all of that. And I still think that the other map, the detailed one in here, is probably going to be where we're wanting to go to see. I kind of have a tendency to want to look at this area first, but it might be nice just to take a look at the beachfront area, kind of the downtown, and take a look at how to get from the airport over to downtown, what that would take in terms of transportation. Maybe we can do that on the... Again, I'm going to do a street view here, and we're going to kind of look at downtown San Juan. So let's zoom in here and take a look at a couple places. So yeah, I think this map, Wikimapia, gives us a very good clue. So we want to kind of look at each one of these. It's kind of hard to look at everything. We kind of just looked at a couple little streets right over there. It's probably really important to look at this intersection right there, because that's such a big intersection. So let's go and hop on that intersection and see what that looks like. So here we are at that intersection. You can kind of see the blue areas. I'm not going to go into that side. I want to kind of go a little more to the residential side, to kind of see what it looks like on the residential area. So like an area that you could like pull over and that looks like right about in here. So there's the highway, but this intersection looks as close as possible to there. So let's look at this street, see what this looks like. Since this is such a major intersection, and yeah, you got United States Post Office. Pretty interesting to see that there. So it looks like they're pretty dependent in both of the images that we've seen, and that's the highway right there. You can go kind of closer to the highway, see what it looks like, and I believe you can call Puerto Rico any of these numbers from the United States, and it should work actually. So it's another interesting fact. And you got kind of the other side, a little bit of graffiti, and got a gas station here. But it gives us some perspective. And it actually was busier on the other side of the neighborhood. If you looked at kind of the 3D view here, I don't know what's going on there. That's really messed up the 3D view. Interesting. But you can kind of see here, it's kind of, it does have a little bit cooler feel than Miami actually. I used to live down in Miami for a little while, but some of these mixed size buildings make it to be really fun. So there's like small businesses, large businesses, apartment complexes. This all looks pretty cool, kind of on the I guess south side of downtown, and you see the buildings get a lot larger along the beachfront there. Let's turn off the street view here. So let's go back to that other image and find another spot that we want to take a look at. Little piece is very important to what's going on, and I would say there's a couple big major intersections, right? We just looked at right over there and kind of either side of the highway. We kind of want to do the same thing here. Looks like there's a river that runs through here. That's going to be a little difficult, but particularly right back in here after you get to this intersection. So this intersection kind of splits off here and here, and it heads to this major artery here. So I think right in here should kind of tell us something quite a bit, as well as back in here. That might be interesting to take a look at on the street view, and we can kind of see, we'll probably jump in and the centers of each of these guys here in a moment. So let's find that. You got this road here, and it kind of splits down here and then goes into that. Here we are on the main map of San Juan, and we see that first section and the second intersection being quite large here as well. So that looks like road 17, and then you got road 1, which would actually be pretty important to look at as well. But the 17 looks like it really has into some busy stuff. So let's zoom in and see what we got. So look at this, we got actually some pretty large buildings coming in through here. So it's actually Highway 1 that a lot of those buildings are off of here, and it actually is up in here. So there's actually kind of more busyness up in there. So let's look at this intersection, even though it looked like right down here would be pretty important. So we're going to try to look. That's cool. You got a Planet Fitness. But let's look at this intersection right here, since that's going to be pretty popular. Let's look at the 3D view first to kind of see. Looks like they got a stadium over there, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So it's actually this road right here, and there's kind of a side road right here. So let's zoom in and see what this looks like. Burger King. Alright, and then some for leases. So it looks like they're kind of struggling a little bit in this area. Looks pretty peaceful and nice actually. So kind of flat like Miami actually, and pretty interesting. So we could kind of zoom around here. I have a little bit better luck trying to do this on the map, because we wanted to see that big intersection. So actually, where is that? Getting a little bit lost here. So again, we are in San Juan, and we're heading down south into this major piece. So this is actually a really important piece of the puzzle. We probably won't see large buildings like this, at least 10 floors or more. In other areas, we might see some of that. Looks like it was industrial properties back in there, but we did see a little spot right in here, which should be interesting. So this looks like pretty high-rise apartment buildings, right? You see quite a bit, and that looks like they don't really have a whole lot of entertainment, it looks like, compared to that other area, so it's still maybe preferred to live over here off of 1. So that's maybe an earlier road, but this is a later construction. Look at that, they got a Best Buy out here and a Macy's. Crazy. So definitely very Americanized. And even a Sam's Club out here, a Walmart Supercenter. Wow. So as well as all these other kind of Puerto Rican places, but it looks like heavily dominated by some American companies, which is kind of interesting. And then you can kind of see the sprawl as we headed out. So let's look at the main map again that we were trying to study to see. So we just kind of looked at this Highway 1 piece that was actually a little bit better, nicer through here, and that actually makes sense. It's kind of the middle ground for either side of this. This is not quite the middle, and there's not really, it's just a major highway. So I would say another really cool spot would be this. So let's take a look at this over here. This looks like a major residential area. It looks like a little bit further to get over there, but we should definitely check that out. And then this area actually looked really fun to me too. It might be more important to look at this area first, because this would maybe give us more of a feel for what the real San Juan is like, since it is a little bit further out, maybe a little less pricey as opposed to living right downtown. So let's look at this and then this area, and we can kind of find maybe another busy street right in that region. So let's zoom out, and we're basically talking about this region and then Livytown. So it looked like it looked like it's probably going to be busier as you get closer to downtown, so maybe along the riverfront right in here, and then you have this 174 road, right, and there's some other ones in here, and you have a mall. So maybe right in here looks like pretty much where we'd have most of the busy kind of downtown feel, as well as residential. So we do have a kind of interesting neighborhood over here. Let's see if we can street view that. Let's look at it. So right in here looks like a very important intersection that a lot of people are probably familiar with. So let's take a look at that intersection right there. And now we're starting to get a little more of the feel of Puerto Rico. I would say it's almost Havana style houses. You see that. Got a little park here. Actually, this looks pretty cool. So a little bit of a hill. Let's go down this hill a little bit just to see mini mall. But that intersection was a little bit busier here, and you can see it's right next to the park and the church as well. So how did we find that? Well, we basically found that from our research map, and we want to take a look at this other area. So basically, if you fly into Puerto Rico, again, you're flying into this international airport, and you're probably hanging out in this area, but we're kind of looking, we just started looking through here. Now we want to look at Livytown. Looks like Livytown is not really diagrammed out at all. So let's just look at the beachfront, take a look at what that looks like. Looks like they don't really have too much street view access. A couple things. So it's actually pretty quiet beach, looks like. So it's actually part of that is it's just hard to get to, right? They got this drawbridge over here. Let's see if we can. Do they even have street view on this? Just barely. Let's just grab right in here. That looks like the busiest intersection that we got. And this is starting to look like Cancun, Mexico, actually. Kind of low-rise buildings, kind of pretty industrial at the same time. So we can maybe even go down the street if you can. But definitely different than the downtown feel. So actually, I would say this is all maybe less pricey, but doesn't really have street view on it. Looks like you got some other intersections we could probably grab right here and see deep into the town what other parts of Puerto Rico look like. And you can kind of see low-rise here, buildings. But a lot of this may change in the future. So with this road heading pretty much over to San Juan downtown, you can kind of see that. So let's just make sure we haven't missed anything on the discussion. Let's go back to our main map here to kind of understand San Juan. And we can see here that this was a very interesting piece. It looked like a pretty fun place originally, but now it turns out that this area right in here actually looked pretty interesting. That was the Highway 1 that we looked at. It was kind of going right down this road here, I think. We may want to look at perhaps this looks like an industrial area, and then right next to the airport looks interesting as well. But this area right here, these three areas are going to probably tell us the most about what typical life in Puerto Rico's life. Like when you're right downtown, that's not exactly like what it's like. So we can probably get some street views. Let's grab this one right here. That would be a centralized one, and we can go right in the smack dab center right in there somewhere. See if we can grab that on our map. Let's zoom out, and we're basically talking about right in here. See if the street view even goes that far. Looks like it's really struggling right in there, but we got a little spot right here. So let's see what we got. Let's turn off street view for a moment. We know we have it in here, but this looks pretty residential. Let's try to find mixed residential, and you got some, looks like some places to eat at and some other things, a barbecue spot. Let's check out this pizza place right in here, and we can kind of see a Facchio pizza and Puma Gas. And this is starting to look like Miami a little bit, these kind of strip malls that you got. But this is going to be hillier than Miami actually, so you can see a little bit of a downslope there, but kind of giving you some idea. Pretty new cars all around here. You can see people doing pretty well over in Puerto Rico, even in the suburbs. Sometimes you don't see that in some parts of Latin America, so that's a pretty good sign with the wealth there, even in the far suburbs. And let's go to one other space back in here. We'll see if we can turn this on and grab another one near the airport. And this would be kind of like maybe some business district near the airport. Let's grab this right in here. Grab that one right there. And it looks pretty storage and kind of like what you'd see near a major airport in the United States. We can drive a little bit closer to the airport, I guess. See what this looks like. But, you know, not too much going on here. It actually does make sense that this is going to be pretty businessy right next to the airport. Right, you got base of this road right in here, and then maybe some other houses, which it looks like they diagrammed this out pretty carefully with street view. And we can just look at Looks like some places to stay at, even right near the airport. That's interesting. And basically a big grocery store. And some other places here in the airport. We can look at the airport really quick. Let's see if we can get a street view or even a 3D view. What San Juan Airport, International Airport looks like. So, looks like you drive in and drive out pretty easily. So that's really nice little airport. And you got JetBlue terminal, looks like. Going pretty cheap on some of these flights. And actually pretty modern airport overall. So that looks like a pretty nice airport. Drive in right through here and drive out. And it looks like you can get right over to the beachfront. You just pull in here and take a right, and you're heading right over to the beach really quickly. So that's awesome. Makes for a low-cost cab ride right over to the beach in San Juan. Let's just make sure we haven't missed anything. Again, we've been kind of looking at all these details for Puerto Rico. We started looking at the main map of population all around the Caribbean and kind of seeing how that related to what's going on in Puerto Rico. A good follow-up study would be Dominican Republic and Haiti, which I'll probably do later this week. And even Jamaica looks like a really important piece of that puzzle in the Caribbean, as well as Trinidad and Tobago. I haven't really done one on that yet, but the whole entire island has a lot of stuff going on. We primarily looked at San Juan, so if you get outside of San Juan, I don't know about the safety situations in rural areas, but it should be pretty good if you stick close to downtown in most of these areas that we studied. Again, we did get into some other areas where it wasn't really street viewed, and it's probably healthy to make sure that you have a street view, kind of looking at all the different perspectives of San Juan. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the study of San Juan. Let me know if you got any questions. I'm going to take a look at the chat really quick. If you got a question, we can maybe take a look at it together and kind of take a look. So, and basically, I'll publish all these maps later so you can kind of take a look. We probably should have looked at the Earth at night. You can kind of see this is from an electrical perspective. Here you can see Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago being the next biggest competitor basically in the Caribbean, with actually wealth as well as electricity being pretty big there. So that's actually maybe the next big study. And then this is temperature wise. You can see it's quite a bit hotter than Miami, but about the same temperature year round as Miami, and some other things going on. So and we kind of looked at the Google map. This is the Wikimapia one. The soil map is pretty important to take a look at. It gives you a good idea for what it's like on the soil footprint. I'll just show you that, zoom in really quick so you can see. I really have a fun time also looking at the geological map, because we're getting so many earthquakes here that it actually could be dangerous. Might be something to think about when thinking about long-term Puerto Rico, because the earthquakes, tall buildings do not do well in earthquakes. So especially when you get 7.0s, 8.0s, I even anticipate a 9.0 in this region. You could probably have at least a 7 in that whole region. But there's a bunch of other maps here that you can take a look at. Shipping maps, flight maps. This is kind of a lightning map. You can see there's not a whole lot of lightning there. And then we looked at the population map. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the study. Thanks a lot. Let me know if you got any questions. I'd be happy to work with you on something in Puerto Rico. If you have some ideas, some things that you're working on around the world, just let me know, and we can try to take a look. See you later. Have a great night.